welcome. I know it's snowy and cold in Colorado too. Hope everyone's all toasty, so maybe grab your blanket, your hot tea. Yeah, settle in for our discussion this morning. I'm so happy to be with you all. So welcome Instagram and Facebook. It's so great to see you. YouTube. All right, let's talk. Let's do our thing. So, good morning. This is our weekly morning ritual where we come together and start our day with intention. Um, so often, we just kind of start the day and hit the ground running, and our subconscious mind likes to pick up where it left off yesterday. And so what that means is that whatever thread we're carrying, we just carry that thread right on through. And that works if it's a thread that is working for you or that you prefer. But if your life isn't going in the exact trajectory that you want, then it behooves us to wake up in the morning or to really pause at any time during the day and bring the unconscious into the conscious. And so that's what we're here to do together this morning. So thank you so much for showing up, for being willing, for opening yourself. So today we're talking about the gift of struggle. Isn't that an interesting way to phrase that? The gift of struggle. My relationship with struggle has transformed dramatically over the past few years and even months and weeks. So I think it's just a poignant topic, something that we all are faced with. Um, and it might behoove us again to kind of look under the hood and kind of see what this is all about. So I like to begin in two ways. Let's just start by taking a few deep breaths separately, but also together. So you can soften your eyes to close if that feels safe for you right now. And maybe you put one hand on your heart, maybe you put the other hand on your belly, and just kind of take a moment to breathe with yourself. Just slow, deep, and full in and out through your nose. Just take a moment to ground down into your body so that you can be where your body is. And as you're ready, go ahead and blink your eyes open and come back in. Welcome. Isn't it so beautiful what the breath can do, right? Just a few deep breaths with intention can really, really restore the nervous system to neutral, to grounding, to a more homeostatic state than we were previously. So we did some deep breathing, and now I'd like to kind of open and close with iterations of the same kriya. And so, if you've been on my morning ritual before or you've coached with me before, you know what a big fan I am of shaking. So, everyone, get up on your feet and start just shaking your body. Just shake your body. Shake your head, shake your arms, shake your legs. You might even jump so that your feet hit the ground, right? And you can kind of think about shaking the energy down into the floor underneath you. Yeah, so just shake, 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 shake. You might even shake your face. It feels really good. This is actually a kriya called Varata, right? So we're gonna just shake, 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 shake here. And you may have heard me say this before, but I think it's really fascinating that humans are the only mammal in nature that doesn't regularly shake. If you notice your pets, your dogs, your cats, that whenever they get scared, whenever they might have a confrontation with another animal, whenever something happens with them, they'll immediately just shake their whole body, right? But we humans don't do that. We just hold on to everything until we die, right? So as you're ready, come back down to your comfortable seat or however you'd like to be for our process today. But just know how valuable that can be to literally clear your nervous system of any lingering, stagnant, unprocessed energy that wants to come out. So hopefully we all just kind of cleared our systems a little bit so that we can be more available for what the conversation has to offer us today. And I invite you to just kind of bear witness to your mind as we enter into this conversation and just notice, um, your approach to all of this. And I encourage you to take the approach that there's something here for you this morning, that there's something here for you today, and that it's here to help you and inform you and guide you on your journey. So I encourage you to keep an open mind, an open heart, so that you can really receive the medicine that you came here for today. All right, because it's here for you. So if you have any resistance in your mind, resistance in your body, that's totally fine. Just notice and stay with me. All right. So the gift of struggle. I shared on my Instagram when I posted that this is what we're going to be talking about this week, that I have had sort of a lifelong relationship with struggle. I've just always kind of perceived myself as someone who's struggling, just kind of like always scraping by and always like kind of at a deficit. And I think I felt that way for so long, and in my adult life especially, because I drank alcohol. And the cycle that I was in with alcohol, it was just like a rise and then a collapse, a rise and a collapse, a rise and a collapse. So because of my drinking pattern, I was always collapsing. And what that meant is that I was like hiding from my life or hiding from others, or I was hungover, or I was trying to recover from having consumed alcohol. And so I think that because of that behavior, I just always felt this like low grade, sometimes medium or high grade, sort of just barrier to life itself. Like there was always something to overcome. And I can see now that I was the one that was putting that obstacle in my path by drinking, that the drinking itself, which I thought was like giving me an escape or giving me a respite or like helping me take a break from the struggle. That's what I thought that the drinking was doing, but the drinking was actually creating more struggle, if not almost all of the struggle that I was faced with at that time. But nonetheless, because of my relationship with drinking, my body became accustomed to the habit of struggle, to the sensation of struggle. And so when I stopped drinking about, what was this, like 4+ years? Is it 4 years and a few months now? Ago, I thought in my brain that if I stopped drinking alcohol, if I could solve that part for myself, that then I would cease to struggle, right? And I have found that that is not the case. And part of me has been disappointed by that. Like, gee, I thought, and please hear me when I say this, that my struggles are way less and way different. So quitting alcohol did mitigate my pattern of struggle by leaps and bounds. Now I would say that I'm faced with, quote unquote, because what is normal anyway, but I think, if I were to look at myself objectively right now, I think that what I am faced with is just like normal human everyday sense of struggle, right? Instead of like the drinking struggle. Which is good news, right? That I'm just like all the normal humans now, that we all just face struggle every day, and I'm no longer engaging in this big pattern that heaped more and more struggle onto my plate. So maybe, I don't know, what does this mean to you? What does struggle mean to you? What has your pattern of struggle looked like throughout your life? Would you, if you had to describe yourself to someone, is struggle a word that you would use to categorize or describe the way that you move through life? What does it mean to you? Maybe a helpful question for you to ask yourself at this time. So that's what struggle means to me, is that, I used to have this like a big period of struggle in my life, and now I think I'm faced with what's like normal struggle. And so that's what we're here to talk about, is what that means. And how we interface with maybe the big struggles and the normal everyday human condition of struggle. Okay. So I think the main objective that I have in bringing this topic to us this morning is kind of trying to find that balance of if struggle is part of your story and you would like to change that story, how do you change the way you interface with struggle so that you can change the story of your life, change the trajectory of your life? That's the one side of the coin. And then on the other side of the coin, I have come to know now that humans are actually wired for struggle, that we need it, that struggle is part of our evolutionary journey. And without it, we won't, we most likely won't have the impetus or the indicator or the flag that signals our system that it's time to learn something new or it's time to grow, right? So I want to be very careful because I talk to my clients all the time about the habit of needing negative emotion to fuel a positive result. So I'm not here to tell you that the only way you can grow in your life is by struggling. What I am here to say today is that inevitably part of being human is the struggle and the yearning and the reaching for something different or more, the pull of our of forward progress. And that part is actually quite beautiful and lovely if we let it be. Right? So that's where we're going to kind of parse this all apart today. And these are nuanced conversations, right? So this is not an either or. This is not a do it this way and solve this. This is a conversation about all the different layers and all the different aspects and all the different levels that there are to being human, and how you can, like, how these one size fits all rules don't work, right? Because we have to learn the ability to be in the nuance, to be in the gray, and to decipher the patterns in our lives in an objective manner so that we can work with them going forward. Okay, so what we're here to do today is really differentiate between the habitual story that we tell ourselves, like life is hard, everything is hard, it will always be this way, I never get what I want, everyone else always gets what they want, like that habitual story. So if that sounds familiar, you might want to jot that down. The words always and never can be indicators that you're in your story, right? That you're telling a story about the way life is, and your story is based on your beliefs about yourself and the world and your place in it, right? So we're here to differentiate between that story that we get caught up in, because the story just reinforces the pattern and creates more of the same, versus this beautiful pull of something more and the quickening of our insides that are pulling us forth. So a lot of this is a conversation about resistance, right? Struggle could also be labeled as resistance. And what I have come to find in my coaching practice is that resistance is a beautiful thing. When my clients and I, when we're trying to create a new pattern, we're trying to let go of some old behavior, and we have a plan, and they go out to execute the plan and something happens, right? Something happens and the plan doesn't work. They come back to me, and their instinct, because of the way the world works, is like, oh my gosh, I've done something wrong because like I had all this resistance or all this stuff came up for me. And I'm of the opposite mind, that resistance is the one of the biggest gifts that we can find in our work together, because resistance shows you what needs to be healed in order for you to get what you want. Resistance shows you your opportunity to work through your shit so that you can create a different story or a different path going forward. So instead of, like, we want to, like, our human brains want to make a change. We're like, okay, I'm going to make this change, and we expect that life is just going to pivot and show us that change. That's what we have categorized as succeeding, is like, I want something and then I made it happen. But really what happens is that we want something, and so life is going to actually, it's not going to just give us what we want more often than not. What life is going to do, it's going to give you more of what you don't want, so that you can have opportunities to refunnel it into what you do want. Right? It's going to say, like, if you're trying to be more patient, life isn't going to say, oh, wonderful, good for you. I'm going to let me take away all of your stressors so that you feel an abundance of patience, right? Do you feel how absurd that sounds? Because then you would never know if you had become more patient or not. So if you want to be a more patient person, gird your loins. That one was for you, Gina. Gird your loins because life is probably going to come at you with this big shitstorm so that you can practice your capacity for patience, right? And so struggle, resistance, all of that is the same thing. Is that when life hands us these obstacles, the obstacle becomes the way, right? We think that obstacles are bad because we have this vision in our mind that this the point A to point B, there shouldn't be anything distracting us from that. But really, to get from point A to point B, when stuff bubbles up, it's really this gift because it shows you what needs to be healed so that you can keep moving forward, right? So do you see kind of where I'm going with this? So really, it's both. Like, struggle can hold us and bind us to this chronic story that we're telling about ourselves. And from this lens, usually that's like a story of victimhood or powerlessness, that life is so hard and I come from the school of hard knocks and I gotta pull myself up by my bootstraps and everyone else has it easier than me. Does this story sound familiar? Um, so we have this opportunity to look through that lens in a different way, detach from the story, and see if we can reroute this inevitable feeling of struggle into something that's potentially more useful. So, to me, what this looks like in real time is trying to shift what feels like fear inside of my body into more excitement, trying to shift what feels like dread or burden or heaviness into purpose. Okay? So I'm going to give you some more drilled down tips for this, but I want to say this first to you also, that if you have resistance as I'm saying these words, like if I'm saying this and you're like, yeah, Casey, that's easy for you, but not for me. Or, yeah, that works for some people, but not for me. Or you're like, oh, but my story is different. Or if you feel really inflamed, like your body is talking to you, and like when I say these words, it makes you want to punch me in the face. I say that sarcastically, right? But if I'm triggering you, or if I'm activating you with the words that I'm saying, what I might like to offer you is, if that's the case for you, you might have some unprocessed emotion inside of your system that needs to come out in order for you to be able to have this conversation. All right. So if you feel super triggered and you're like, this isn't possible, this is spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity or whatever, like, I honor you, I validate you, and also it sounds like you might have some stuff on the inside that just feels too big and too raw for you to hear the strategy behind it. And that's beautiful. I honor you on your journey and I can help you process that if you'd like. But if that is the case, I might suggest that you find a healthy way to let your frustration come out. Find a healthy way to let your grief come out. Find a healthy way to let your anger come out. And for my clients, usually this is like letting yourself cry, like really cry. You might even get down on the floor and like have a tantrum. Like if life feels so unfair to you, like it might feel good to like kick and scream for a little while. Like I give you permission to do that. If life feels burdened to you or it feels unfair, or it feels like people have it easier than you, like I get it. You might need to go drive in your car and scream while you're driving. Or maybe now's a great time to look into like a boxing class or a kickboxing class or something that you can actually make contact with a physical bag. I know I have men and women. Hi, Charles. All uh, participating in this, but I know specifically for women, we are not taught to process our anger. We go straight to sadness usually. And so what that means, like, that a lot of adult women are walking around really pissed off because they've never had permission or a gateway to release their anger before. So if that feels like you, then again, like, get in a kickboxing class, like punch something, literally go to one of those, I don't even know what they're called. What do I usually call them? Like one of those like wreckage, what are they called? It's escaping me right now, but one of those places where you can literally go and they put goggles on you and they make sure you're protected and you can go break things, right? It might be really good for processing like this emotion that needs to come out so that you can interact with it from a different place. Punching a pillow could be really good, hitting your an inanimate object with a pillow. I think you get my idea. So if this conversation feels like, God, Casey, I can't even start to do these things that you're suggesting, then I would really encourage you to process whatever unprocessed emotion might be taking up the bandwidth inside of you, and then maybe come back to this conversation and see if it lands a little bit differently. Let me know if I can help you with that. So, I want to introduce to you this resource, and I talk to my clients about it all the time, and I've shown it on here before. This is called the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. And if you're familiar with human design, um, they're both formed off the same ancient principle, which is the Chinese I Ching. And um, basically, what both the human design and the Gene Keys expression, um, they're both formulated on the belief that when and where you were born, at the time and place of your birth, the planets are aligned in such a way that will inform who you are and your journey through life. I'm almost emotional talking about that. And it's like, this to me is God. Like, God gave us the stars, God gave us the planets, God gave us the moon and the sun. So why not use them for information, right? Like, this to me is so holy. But anyway, so the Gene Keys and human design both say that at the time and place of your birth, the planets are aligned in such a way that they kind of inform who you are inside of yourself, in your DNA, and what your life path will look like. Okay. And so for the Gene Keys, I am not a certified practitioner in this modality. Like, there are people that can look at your chart and look at your threads and be able to tell you like what your life path is and what that looks like. I am not at that level yet. I love this work. Like, I love being a coach. I love being a seeker, because there's so many things that I want to do, and it's like I literally just don't have time for them all. But this is something that's on my list, is to delve into this modality more deeply. But for now, it's really working for me, and it's really working for my clients, because just the concept of the Gene Keys is so genius. And intuitively, I've been coaching this way anyway. And so to find a lens that just gives me more language and more tools to continue to coach in this way is so beautiful. So what the Gene Keys teach is this: that in each of our 64 strands of DNA that each human possesses inside of their body, there lies a shadow, a gift, and a city. All right. So literally embedded, encoded into our DNA, there are 64 strands, and each strand has a path, a purpose. Okay. And so the thinking is that, if you have shadows in your life, and in the Gene Keys, struggle is one of the shadows. So all of us will experience struggle because it's in each of our DNA. But some of us will, based on our time and place of birth, will experience higher levels of struggle, and some will experience lower levels of struggle. It's just the way it goes. But this 38th gene key, that the okay, so let me back up. So the thinking is that, there's a lot of talk in the coaching space or the transformation space about doing shadow work. And in yoga is all about the duality, the light and the darkness coming together. So like a lot of like Judeo-Christian outlook would be to like cut off the darkness, right? Or to like take the dark parts and take the dark parts and cut them off, or whatever. But the what I like about the yoga is that it wraps its arms around all of it. It says, let's actually integrate the shadow and wrap our arms around these dark parts of ourselves so that we can understand them more and heal them and use them for our good. So the Gene Keys gives us a way to do this. If you're familiar with epigenetics, this to me is the how of epigenetics. So science tells us that our DNA is passed down from generation to generation. So if your ancestors experienced a great struggle, which I'm sure all of our ancestors did at some point. It lived in their DNA, and then it gets passed down through the genetic line, and it lives in my DNA, in your DNA. And so epigenetics tells us that with focus and intention and consistency, we can, in our own lifetimes, change the way that our DNA expresses itself so that we can heal our bloodline, and then the DNA we pass on to our further generations is now this healed expression of the DNA instead of the shadow expression of the DNA. And so the gene keys gives us a path and shows us how to do that, right? So we can literally heal our DNA in real time through this path. Okay, it's so inspiring, it's so exciting. So in the gene keys, there's 3 phases: the shadow, the gift, and the city. So it says that whenever you find a shadow in your life, it's actually good news, because when you can explore that shadow, when you can understand the shadow and the expression of the shadow, then you can begin the work of living into the gift, right? That the struggle, when turned on its head, the shadow, when turned on its head, can lead you towards a place that is a gift. And then the longer you spend in that gift, the more time you express through that gift, then you can move from the gift to the siddhi, Siddhi, which is a Sanskrit word for transcendence. Okay? So I do this work with my clients all the time when they have something that they're struggling with, or something that they're faced with, that if we can find the shadow, and find what's on the opposite side of the shadow, then we can live into what's on the opposite side. And not only does the shadow get healed, but then you get to move forward as well. So it's this really beautiful, beautiful concept. So today we're going to talk about the 38th gene key, which is the shadow of struggle. And the name of this gene key is the warrior of light, which I think is so inspiring and beautiful. It lives in our adrenals, and yeah, so I think that's kind of curious too, that the struggle lives in our adrenals, because I know that a lot of people suffer from adrenal fatigue these days. So you might, if you have adrenal fatigue or problems with your adrenals, this could be an indicator pointing you back to this specific strand of DNA and healing its expression in real time. Blows my mind. So, what does the shadow look like? So, the thinking of the gene keys is that everyone will struggle, right? That it's part of the human condition, right? And so it's like everyone will fight. Everyone has been sent here to fight a fight. So it's this, the shadow is acknowledging the fight and understanding how you're fighting the fight right now. Like, are you fighting the fight in a way that's disempowering, or are you fighting the fight in a way that's empowering? And so in the shadow state of this strand of DNA, the struggle looks like you're fighting with yourself, you're fighting with others, you seem to be fighting with life itself, right? So fighting against the nature of life, like going upstream, an uphill battle, right? So those are indicators that you're in the struggle, okay? It's like when the fight feels disempowering, when the fight feels like it's against the nature of life itself, like you're going against the grain of life. And I know that I myself was like this for a very long time, and I still have shards of it, strands of it, bursts of it that come up in my thinking, where I say things like it can't be this hard for everyone else, or why is it hard for me, or this always happens to me, or yep, this is just how this goes, right? So when we're fighting our fight or perceiving our struggle from a personal level, what that does is it limits our perspective, right? So if it's all about me, then anything that happens, of course, is all about me, and it's debilitating to me, right? So it's the perspective of viewing the struggle on the personal level can be very disempowering. So at the shadow level, this is like fighting life, all about me, why is it so hard for me, etc., etc., etc. So again, if you find yourself saying those words, always and never, or being focused on me and mine, your chances are you're in the shadow level of this expression. So in our world, it's common to see the struggle in the undeveloped world happen outwardly. But in the developed world, it's more common to see the struggle happen inwardly. Okay? So, one way to start to shift from the shadow of struggle into the gift of perseverance is to begin to widen your vision. And this is something that I learned in my coaching program, actually, that we can all try together right now, is that you sit up nice and tall, gaze dead ahead, and then with your eyes, just gaze up about 45 degrees. And see if you can linger here and widen your eyes open and start to broaden your vision. See what your eyes pick up now that they weren't picking up before. And as you do so, start to notice the things that you can hear, the things that you can smell, maybe even the things that you can taste. Let your vision expand itself. Now, what this does is it creates more capacity in your mind to be able to have this conversation from a different level. So you can do this at any time. You can do this before meetings, before anything important. Just raise your eyes up onto the horizon. Take a few moments to broaden your experience, your perspective of the world. And then as you're ready, you can bring your eyes back down. Okay, so the way that we shift from this individual, personalized sense of struggle, fighting the world, fighting yourself, fighting everyone in it, is to start to expand your vision into a greater purpose. And this greater purpose allows us to tap into the gift. The gift of struggle is perseverance, right? And perseverance, is one of the most essential human attributes when it comes to tapping in to your inner warrior, right? So this makes me think of the movie Rudy. This is kind of this underdog mentality of like persevering, of resilience, of continuing to show up and fight the good fight regardless of what life hands you. Notice that I said the good fight, right? Because this gene key is all about, we're all gonna fight no matter what. So you can make it a fight that sucks, or you can make it a fight that participates and produces and grows into something, all right? If you've read that book, The Obstacle is the Way, if you haven't read it, I would really recommend it. That life is not about overcoming obstacles or not having obstacles. Life is about moving through the obstacles. Life is about using the obstacles to get you from point A to point B, that they're actually not a deterrent, that the obstacle is the way, the obstacle is the path. So when you consider the path of the warrior, what does that mean to you? When you think about your inner warrior, like how would you describe that being inside of yourself, right? Your own inner warrior. Lately when I've been teaching warrior poses in my yoga classes, I've been asking my students while we stand there and hold the poses and breathe, to, in those moments, really allow themselves to embody the attributes of the warrior. So what does that mean to you? Is it courage? Is it resilience? Is it perseverance? Is it strength, right? Is it show-uppedness? Is it vigor? Is it enthusiasm? Is it boundaries? Like, what does the inner warrior mean and look like to you right now? And what would it mean for you to continue to cultivate and embody those aspects of the warrior in your body, in your heart, in your mind, right? So really, perseverance marks the quest of the inner warrior. Richard Rudd says in these gene keys that there's always in this gene key that there's the certainty of final victory. You just have to fight the right battles, right? So this gene key of struggle asks us to shift the way we see our battle, right? To move from this battle of fighting life, fighting ourselves, fighting each other, and to elevate that to fight for something that is more purposeful, to fight for something that is more productive. This gene key is asking us to take our negative qualities and to put them in the service of a higher aspiration. Right? And so my struggle with alcohol really rings true when I think about those words is that, when I look back on my life, I could say, like, God, I wasted my 2 decades of my adult life. I messed up my life. I did all these things. Or I could say, wow, those were some of the darkest times and some of the most negative patterns that I've experienced in my life. And now, in this moment, I am choosing to take my struggles and put them in service to something greater, which is my own health, which is my partner's health, which is the health of my clients who are also moving to be alcohol free and to break up the patterns that have historically held them back and to reroute those patterns into patterns that are of service to them. Right? So that really rings true to me, is that the changing the shadow into the gift, moving from struggle into perseverance, is saying, yes, all of these things have happened to me. How can I use them for my good? How can I use them for the good of others? How can I make sure that what I went through is never wasted? It's never in vain, by funneling it into a purpose with my perseverance right here, right now. So, how does this sound to you? Does this sound like it's doable? Does it sound like it's workable? That in the moments that you find yourself like, oh, this is such a struggle, like, oh, this feels so heavy, or why is life always like this? Do you think in those moments that you could actually flag your brain to say, oh, well, wait, I'm struggling. How can I persevere? Could you do that? Because that is the practice. What do you need to write down right now? What sticky note do you need to stick somewhere to say struggle equals perseverance? Okay? Because that's the work of healing your epigenetics, is instead of collapsing, instead of going into this, is it the damsel? I don't know, it could be. Instead of going into this like, oh, see, life is this way. See, it'll never be this way for me. See, it's always this way for me. Instead of collapsing into the defeat of that shadow, can you, in those moments when you feel the struggle in your system, say instead, this is my opportunity to persevere. This is an opportunity for me to call upon my inner warrior, my warrior of light. And instead of struggling and fighting against myself and against life, how can I fight for something? How can I persevere and fight for something that serves? Fight for something that is good. Fight for something that moves me and everyone else forward, right? How can I fight for something that heals us right now? And I think that the way to stay connected to that is by understanding the city, right? So in this gene key, the shadow is struggle, the gift is perseverance, and the city, the place of transcendence, is honor. And this is a little hard for me to wrap my brain around, so I'm going to try to do a really good job of offering this to you in a way that connects. But really, like, by moving out of struggle and into perseverance, what we get to taste is the honor of the fight, right? The honor of the battle of the warrior of light. So honor is what turns combat into a dance, right? And this is all from Richard Rudd's Gene Keys. He's so brilliant. So it's like when there's something honorable to fight for, then it's no longer a struggle, right? Then it becomes almost a joy, right? In the knowing that the struggle has led to something holy, that the struggle has led to something that's bigger than you, that serves more than you, right? That you can be deeply connected to and understand this human experience of struggle without being pulled into the story, without being bogged down and burdened, that you can see it and interface with it, but know that there's some higher purpose. Know that there's that your perseverance will lead you to this honorable place. Okay, so here's the prompt that I'd love to give you to kind of, quote unquote, start to figure this out for yourself. And again, stick with me and please just try to keep your mind and heart open. But when I think about this for myself, it really helps me to zoom way out. like way, way, way out. And so there's kind of two techniques that I'll offer to you. One of them, like I talk to my clients about this all the time. So if you read novels, and they each, like, novels have chapters, and so the author, when they're writing each chapter, like, each chapter is designed to give the reader the exact information that the reader needs to get to where they're going, right? So when you're reading a book, you can kind of trust, I don't know if any of us have actively ever thought about this, but you can trust that every chapter is designed by the author to give you something that you need, right? To form this complete picture so that when you get to the end of the book, it all makes sense. Do you see where I'm headed with this? Ooh, I love it. So how can you, as the author, quote unquote, of your own life, like, zoom out, right? Because you are the author, but there's also other forces, right? Like, if you believe, like I do, that there's something bigger than some, your spirit, your soul, everything is being pulled forward, right? So the thing about being the author of your own life is we don't know exactly where it's headed, right? We don't as humans, we don't really get to know in the moment exactly what our struggles are for. There's actually this Japanese parable about good luck, bad luck, who knows? Maybe I'll talk about that another day, but go look that up and you'll know what I mean. Gosh, I really want to talk about it, but that's too much of a derailment. What was I saying? So, if this is the chapter of your life that you're in, and if you're the author of this book that is your life, and if you zoom out, it, like, on this present moment, if you can find a way to zoom out on your life and view it with a little broader perspective, raise your eyes on the horizon. What do you think that this season of your life is here to teach you that no other season of your life can? Okay? So basically, you're asking yourself, like, this is my struggle right now. Like, what am I meant to learn in this moment that no other moments in my life have been able to teach me? And if you can find that and see that for yourself, it might give you a little more purpose so that you can persevere through. It might be the perspective that you need to get out of this personalized story of my struggles, my path, right? And broaden you up to, like, okay, but what is this all for? Usually we don't understand what things are for until hindsight, until we're looking over our shoulder. So this is a tool to help you find hindsight in real time, right? To be able to interface with it in real time instead of missing those opportunities and only understanding them after the fact. Okay, so what is this season of struggle trying to teach you, and how can you learn the lesson right now in real time instead of later when it's all said and done? Okay, so that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it would be to sort of consider, like, you know, whatever you believe about souls and how that all happens, but a lot of yogis, like, a lot of people believe that our souls decided to come here, right now, right? That we actually signed up for all of this, that we wanted this, that we chose this because our soul's evolution needed this to get to continue to grow and move forward, right? So if you can believe that that is true, just for this conversation, like, what do you think that your soul came here to learn? And how is what you're experiencing right now part of that learning? And what can you do right now to participate with your soul's mission instead of fighting it? Okay? If your soul chose this life and chose this path, what do you need to do to participate in your soul's learning right here, right now? And if you're confused about how to start that, I would always direct you back to perseverance and then trying to find an honorable fight to fight. Okay? So the antidote to struggle is perseverance, right? And if perseverance can be cultivated with a purpose that is holy and noble and honorable, then we have shifted out of this shadow of struggle and into the gift that it was sent here to provide for us, that it's sent here actually to quicken us, to awaken this act of perseverance. And the more we persevere, the stronger we become. Okay? How does that feel to you? So when you feel struggle, that's a flag to practice perseverance. Okay? And that's how you shift your epigenetics. So I'd like to just kind of complete this with another Kriya. And it's a little weird because we're not like in a formal class setting, so we're not completely warm. But we did Virata once where we did the shake. So I'd like to take you into the next layer of Virata, which is just a little bigger, a little more evocative. So we open our arms out wide, and you open your hands like you're holding two heavy grapefruits, right? So outstretch your arms to the sides like the letter T with pretty significant bends in both of your elbows. Raise your chest up and then imagine that you're holding heavy grapefruits, really open. Take a full breath in. And then as you exhale, you contract and carve your spine out with a CH sound. Inhale, open. Exhale, ch. And we don't have to take this super fast, but go ahead and go. We're going to be here for several minutes. So open and close. So don't think about it too much. Just open and close, knowing that this is balancing energy in the body, that it's moving anything through in the body that needs to be released. So you're almost arcing your spine like cat and cow. If you're familiar with yoga, raise your heart up, raise it down. Raise your heart up, raise it down. And just notice how more balance and restoration is coming in from the front and the back of your body. Know that this can accomplish the same goal with your energy, balancing. So this is the part to turn your mind off and just let the energy move through you. Just let your physical body kind of weed out and process some of the things that we just discussed. Just let it move through you, trusting that whatever you need most will bubble to the surface for you, will reveal itself. Five, four, and release to receptivity pose. So just turn your palms up, soften your eyes to close, again, if that feels safe to you. And without thinking too much, just allow yourself to receive. Receive the medicine of these teachings. Receive the medicine of the movement, of the breath, of the shifting of energy. And take a full breath in and a full breath out. Amazing. Go ahead and open your eyes. So, your work now is to shift out of struggle and into perseverance. Right? Oh, here's one thing that I wanted to share with you about that is that, in coaching, we talk about this all the time, that that you can either be towards motivated or away motivated, right? That you can either be running away from something or running towards something. And we know from human behavior that it always feels so much better and works so much more sustainably when we're running towards something that we really desire and love versus running away from something that we hate or that we're trying to avoid, right? And so the shadow of struggle could be about, running away and avoiding, but perseverance is running towards something, right? So how can you tap into that feeling of running towards something? Like, in my business, being an entrepreneur is interesting, especially in these times right now. And sometimes I have fear in my body. And so my work is trying to make decisions not from that place of fear, but the excitement of how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to make offers to people that they love? Like, how is this all going to go? Ooh, I can't wait to see how it's all revealed versus, oh shit, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? So that is what this looks like. We want this like broad, like magic button that we can just click and like all of a sudden our thoughts are different. But that, my friends, that's the in the trenches work of being shifting the fearful thoughts and sensations and emotions and rerouting them into excitement and all the things, perseverance, which I've already said a million times. So, all right, that's what I have to say. I hope that this is helpful for you. I think I love the gene keys because they allow us, again, if you were with me last week, I said this, to be in the energy of the solution instead of being in the energy of the problem. So instead of just not struggling, now we can train our eyes on the act of perseverance no matter what comes our way. And that feels really good to me. So I've got a lot of ways that you can work with me right now to continue this work. Please know that this is some of the most potent work that you'll ever do. That the world will tell you to focus outwards on all these external things, but really when you have the courage and the presence and the ability to go inward, when you start to shift the inner workings and the way you relate to concepts like struggle, it will change everything for you. It will change how you show up in your relationships. It will change the way you interface with your money. It will change the way you interface with food. It will change how you interface with your community. It will change everything. So literally go inward, it's so that we can go outward. Heal the relationship with yourself so that we can participate in healthy relationships with one another, so that we can create healthy communities. This is internal work, but it does not stop there. It is internal work so that we can go be healed people that help heal others in the world instead of hurt people that continue to hurt others in the world. So this is deep introspective inner work that then you are meant to take into the outer world and literally be the change that you wish to see out there.